Okay, so I wanted to bring up in supervision a client that I've been seeing. Her name is Alice. I've been seeing her for 3 weeks, and over the course of our sessions, I've just realised that I have, in fact, also seen her ex-husband. So I'm having a little bit of an ethical dilemma, and I'm wanting to discuss with you. Um, what I do moving forward. So, Alice is clearly in need of psychological help. And while I haven't broken any ethical code, the guidelines and principles governing those codes and my own personal values have been brought into question. So, the dilemma is that I've discovered that I've worked with Alice's ex husband before, and whether or not I continue therapy or withdraw. And the second part to that dilemma is how do I do one of those without causing further harm? The codes that I'm concerned about are respect for the rights and dignity of people and people's propriety and integrity. And the part of that code that I'm looking at is acting justly. So the actions of mental health professionals should be fair and equitable, and others should be treated as we would want to be treated in or under similar circumstances. So, um, as Alice's psychologist, it is expected that I conduct myself in a way that I would expect my health practitioners to act towards me. Therefore, omitting certain information may be seen as me purposely withholding information that may have changed or guided Alice to choose a different course of action. So, either a different therapist altogether or not coming to therapy at all, thus removing the opportunity for Alice to feel she had actual control or autonomy over her therapy, and leaving her feeling jilted by the person that she has put trust in. Again, this could create a barrier for Alice not trusting what I say therapeutically moving forward, or any other therapist for that matter. It also causes me internal conflict. I expect my practitioners to always be honest and have my best interests at heart with their decision making. And if I was in a similar circumstance, I would probably be upset that my practitioners didn't disclose this information to me. And that's because in my own values, I hold honesty to be really important. So while it would be easier not to say anything and continue to provide therapy, I wouldn't be feeling really good about myself, and that would cause internal conflict. Likewise, I also need to take into account the confidentiality of Daryl, who may see me providing therapy to Alice as wrong and unprofessional. He may feel that his privacy is also in jeopardy and therefore feel let down by myself and the profession. If I were to continue seeing Alice, I would need to contact Daryl to seek permission to advise Alice that he had previously had therapy. And this could bring up the same issues that Daryl may not want Alice to know that he saw a psychologist, and again feel worried about me breaching confidentiality by slipping things up that he had told me in practice in future sessions with Alice. So the second thing that I'm really concerned about is doing no harm. So again, for me, this is the most critical code for a profession to adhere to, and especially as a psychologist. I think that not being honest and not stopping therapy with Alice wouldn't be adhering to this principle. Alice may not be aware that her ex had sought psychological help from me and may never know. And if that was the case, then there are two possible outcomes. No harm is done, as what she doesn't know doesn't hurt her, and I could move on as usual. By not disclosing when I'm able and then having Alice find out later, this would most likely be perceived as me being deceitful and have dire effects. Alice no longer believes that psychologists are honest and trustworthy, ending her therapy with me and not seeking help anywhere else. And this could lead to severe outcomes, such as a decline in her depression or worse, even for her to become suicidal. Her opinion and subsequent review of me would be terrible, impacting on future work and clientele. And I could taint the profession and my reputation because of the deceit. This would also have caused me massive distress because my core values as a person is being professional, acting with honesty, and not hurting people if I can help it. So while no moral law has been broken, the principles that guide them have been somewhat called into play. It would be hard to argue that as a therapist, I could, with good faith, say that having seen Daryl, I previously um, would not unconsciously bias my work moving forward, and then therefore the therapeutical relationship. If I continued, I couldn't say that I wasn't crossing any professional boundary and acting in the best interest of both clients, as this is highly valued to myself, to be honest and caring and not to make things work. So obviously the vulnerabilities and values that I need to consider there are my own need to help, my own issue with not failing, and also thinking that I can always help, and knowing my own limitations as a person and a practitioner. The vulnerabilities are obviously Daryl, Alice, and also the young child. I don't want to make things worse. I also can't say for sure that my own biases and values wouldn't come into play. And also the child that's in this. I certainly don't want to make things worse for her by making mum's mental health worse and possibly causing more conflict between Daryl and Alice in the future. So possible resolutions is that I can explain what's happened and continue therapy. I don't do anything and continue therapy. I stop therapy because I've explained that I can't continue due to the issues that I've discussed. So weighing up this decision, positives that that I'm able to make a more informed decisions because I've got everyone's perspective, that Alice doesn't have to go through telling her story again, that both Alice and Daryl are actually fine with seeing me. Negatives, that Alice will be constantly worried that I'm acting with an unconscious bias. All of this knowledge may make the situation for Alice, Daryl, and their child worse. Could fall into that values trap that I spoke about, whereby you have this need to help and fix people, and as such, overlook the potential of causing harm. I get paid, that's a positive. And if I hadn't already, I could potentially break an ethical code moving forward. I may think that I'm skilled enough therapist to be above unconscious bias and unknowingly end up breaching and causing more harm than good. So the decision I've made is to no longer continue therapy, and this is done considering the Queensland 6 step. So I've recognised the potential issue, as discussed earlier, the values traps, the unconscious bias, the vulnerabilities, the codes that I could potentially be breaking or bringing into question. So that's how I've made the decision. I checked the code, and yes, if I continue on, there is the potential to cause harm and to breach those codes. I've sought help from my supervisor and trusted colleagues. I've looked at the potential options and also the values, the vulnerabilities, and the codes, looking at all of those and having them govern my decision. And then I've decided, and I've done this all with reflection. So I've decided to stop the therapy, suggest options of therapists to Alice that practice like me, that have the similar fees and that are obviously available to treat her now. And I'll sit down and do this with Alice as a practitioner and therapist in relationship. And there are my references. Thank you.